Dr. R. Sugaraj Samuel. He is working as a professor in physics at New College, Chennai. He is also training students for IIT JEE, AIEEE and BIT SAT. He has more than 16 years experience in both teaching and research. He has published a book titled The Complete Handbook of Bachelor of Electronic Science Practicals, which is prescribed for the syllabus for BSc Electronic Science by University of Madras. He has presented papers in several national and international conferences and has also conducted many training programs and workshops to motivate energetic students. His research areas are ultrasonic, polymers, crystal growth and photovoltaic systems. He is experienced in both regular classroom teaching and online teaching as well.
Welcome to UGC lecture series on electricity and magnetism. We have been discussing about the concepts related to the magnetic force experienced by the current carrying wires in this part of the lecture series. In continuation, we are going to see in this lecture the concept of defining 1 ampere based on the force experienced by parallel current carrying wires. Let us see the session outline for today's lecture. In this session, we are going to see the definition of 1 ampere, an instrument called Ampere's balance, measurement of ampere and measurement of permeability. All these concepts are having a common idea, or the base knowledge is the same. It is about the force experienced by two current carrying wires. So, let us quickly have a recap. This concept is already taught. A quick recap is required for understanding the concepts that we are going to learn today. So, let us have a quick recap of the force experienced by two parallel current carrying wires. The force between two parallel wires carrying currents on a segment of length L is given by this expression. It depends on the permeability of the space between the two wires and the individual currents that are in the wire and the length, which segment we consider, that is marked here as L, and this A is the distance of separation. All these are denoted here in this diagram. When the two conductors carry current in the same direction, they experience a attractive force. This force is mutually attractive, so it is depicted in this diagram, and this force is due to the magnetic field mutually produced by the two current carrying wires. At this point, we should keep one base concept. It is, when a wire carries current, it produces magnetic field around it in a circular path. At the right hand thumb rule is used, and that field cannot affect the conductor. Because of the magnetic field that is existing around a conductor, it will not experience force. Some external magnetic field is required. In that field only this will experience force. Because there are two parallel wires, the field produced by the first wire on the second becomes the external for the second, and same way the field produced by the second wire becomes the external field for the first wire, and vice versa, right. So, mutually the force is existing. By measuring the force, what do we infer? What is the advantage? There are a lot more we can learn. The force per unit length, any length we can consider. So, the force per unit length is the correct quantity to take it for discussion. So, bring this L to the denominator. So, this is the force per unit length. In that case, it depends on these quantities. If we make the currents as known currents and the force per unit length is a particular value based on the distance of separation and the permeability of the free space, all that. We will be able to use this equation even for defining current. Shall we see the definition that we obtain from this very basic equation? Look at this. The force per unit length equation is once again presented here. If I1 and I2 are made as unity 1 ampere and you take the distance of separation A as 1 meter. So, numerically it is shown here, it is mu naught divided by 2 pi. All the other terms are made as 1 because magnitude wise they are all 1 unity. So, substitute for mu naught value, it is 4 pi multiplied with 10 to the power minus 7 and the cancellations are done. So, 2 into 10 to the power minus 7 Newton per meter. So, this is the force per unit length. So, if this is the force, then the current is said to be 1 ampere. We try to define the current from the force per unit length value. If 2 into 10 to the power minus 7 Newton per meter is the force existing between the two parallel current carrying wires, then the current is said to be 1 ampere, provided the distance of separation is 1 meter and the space is free space, because permeability of free space only we have used. But I would like to highlight upon the magnitude, the value, 2 multiplied with 10 to the power minus 7. So, it is very small force, 10 to the power minus 7 dominates here. So, it is a very meager force. If that could be measured with some sensitive instrument, sophisticated instrument, then we can measure the current itself. We will be able to define the current in the words of the SI unit, international standards, that way we can define what is current. The above conditions lead to the following definition of ampere. This is how the 1 ampere is defined as per the SI units. When the magnitude of the force per unit length between the two long parallel wires that carry identical currents and are separated by 1 meter is 2 into 10 to the power minus 7 Newton per meter, then the current in the wire is defined to be 1 ampere. When we say the current is 1 ampere with the help of the force per unit length value, we have one more method of defining current. There is another possible definition also. That definition is based on the charge. When 1 coulomb of charge flows through the entire cross section of a conductor in 1 second, then the current is said to be 1 ampere. So, the second definition is also a valid definition, but this is not accepted by the SI system of units. In SI system of units, it is specified in terms of the force per unit length experienced by the wire carrying currents, and the current could also be defined in terms of the Faraday's laws of electrolysis, how much amount of silver deposited on a particular electrode per unit time. Based on that also we can define an international ampere. There are several ways by which we can define 1 ampere, but the SI accepted definition is based on the force per unit length value. And at this juncture, one question may arise into your mind: what is the SI unit, the current, the electrostatics or current unit accepted in SI system? Is it coulomb or current? Because coulomb seem to be the very basic unit, because that is a fundamental quantity, right? But that is not accepted in SI, but the current is only taken up for SI system. Why it is so? Though we say, I would like to write it and show, this is based on current I is equal to Q divided by T. If this is 1 coulomb per 1 second, the current is said to be 1 ampere. The coulomb seem to be the basic unit, right? But the current is only taken as the SI system of unit. Why it is so? It is based on the measurability. It is very difficult to measure the coulomb, but it is somewhat easier for us to measure the current, right? How? By measuring the force. So that is why in SI system of units, rather than taking the coulomb as the fundamental, current is taken as the fundamental quantity. So we have to understand how this current is measured. We have a device called Ampere's balance. So let us see the concepts further, how current could be measured by utilizing the force that is existing between two wires. Here for measuring the current, we do not have a long wire, but we have two coaxial coils. They have closed loop, no, the current would enter and leave at a particular point, that is not shown in the diagram, but current could enter through a point and leave alone that point. There are two coils carrying current in the opposite direction. The coil number 1 is shown at the bottom, which carries current in this direction. The coil number 2, which is above it, which is carrying current in the opposite direction. The arrow marks show that, separated by a distance d, and the radius of each of them is r. What will happen when such a system is kept? Because they carry current in the opposite direction, they will experience repulsive force. This we have learnt already. The two oppositely passing currents will experience repulsive force. Now, in this case of coaxial system, one coil will affect the other, right? So it is shown here in this segment. Consider this segment, any small segment here, which is taken up. This DS2 is for the second coil, which is marked here in red. That alone is highlighted. It carries current. So that DS, this S is telling about the direction of current only, which is marked here, and the magnetic field produced by that, all are shown, and the force is upwards, right? The force is acting upwards on the wire. This magnetic field is the magnetic field produced by the second on the first. So it experiences force upward. Similarly, what about first coil? That will experience force downwards. So the two coils will experience force away from each other. In simple words, the repulsive force. Can we measure the repulsive force? That is what is the principle of Ampere's balance. We can measure the force experienced by the two coils in terms of weights, masses multiplied with acceleration due to gravity. So we have to get into the very basic way of measuring the force. Let us see what is the device called. And if you want to further develop the concept, the force per unit length, let us take the length as the 2 pi d, that is the length. And when we properly substitute, and here also when we say I1, it is N1I, I is the current, equal currents let us take, N1 is the number of turns and N2 is the number of turns of the second, like that. So where N1 and N2 are the number of turns in the coils, I is the common current in them. With this help, here it is done. The length to be used in the circumference of the coil, 2 pi r, where r is the common radius. The result is that the magnitude of the force here is given as the force per unit length multiplied with the circumference will give us the magnetic force, which is shown here. For I1 and I2 we have properly substituted, and d is the distance of separation, r is the radius. So we have got this as the expression. The magnetic force, mutual force experienced by the two coils is arrived at. If we do not want the two coils to experience the repulsive force, by some mechanism we have to cancel out the force by adding weights. That is what is done in Ampere's balance. By Newton's third law, the total force on the coil 1 is equal in direction and opposite in magnitude of the force on the coil 2. So these two forces are mutual forces, one pushing the other, that could be cancelled with the help of weights that we add in the system. That is done here. See, in Ampere's balance, if this force is made to compensate by some added weights to maintain the distance between the two rings, then at equilibrium the gravitational force is equal to the magnetic force. So, this is due to the gravity, this is due to the magnetism, the magnetic force. These two could be cancelled. Look at this illustration. When the two coils carry current, imagine as if these are the two coils. When they carry current in such a way, they experience the repulsive force. They try to move away from each other, right, if they are allowed to move. By suitably adding weights, we can maintain the distance. Don't allow them to move away. Maintain the distance as such by suitably adding the weights. In that case, it is in equilibrium. How much of weight you are adding? So, the gravitational force comes into the picture. So, that gravitational force, that is called weight, is equal to the magnetic force existing between the two coils. That is properly done in this balance. This is the device called Ampere's balance. Ampere's balance, constructed at the former National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology, is shown here in the diagram. It is exhibited in the National Museum of Nature and Science, Tokyo, Japan. I hope you could see the arrangement, but there are some parts covered here by the wooden cover. In another diagram I will show you that also, what is actually existing, that also you will be able to see. But before that, illustration that will make us understand the concept very easily I want to show. This is how it is arranged. A typical experimental setup. This could represent the Ampere's balance setup. Why it is called balance? Because one is compensating the other. In a balance, we have weights here, and here we have the other weight hanger, and the two coils are shown here. This is a stationary coil which carries current. This is a movable coil. Don't give importance to the geometry and all that. It is just used for understanding the concept. So, when they are given the current, well, how do we give the current? Like this. Pass current into them, pass current into them, pass current into them, like this. The current enters and leaves. What will happen? Because of the direction that we have chosen, all I have explained, what will happen? They will experience a repulsive force. This is a stationary coil, so this cannot move. This will try to move down. This will try to move downwards. If you want to compensate, you do not want this distance of separation to be changed. This has to be maintained. So, what we have to do here, we have to put some weights. This is called counterweight. So, how much of weight that we add? So, that is equal to how much of weight that we add? That will be equal to the force experienced by the movable coil. So, this is what is the very basic concept used in Ampere's balance. How the two coils are kept? We would like to have a look at that. Take this picture. So, this is the Ampere's balance at the US National Bureau of Standards. The current coils are visible under the balance attached to the right balance arm. The earlier diagram, this is the typical balance I have shown. So, here we have the coils. The huge coils are shown here. No? Why huge coils are needed? As I have already stated, the force per unit length is 2 into 10 to the power minus 7 Newton per meter. It is a very feeble force that has to be compensated with counterweights. So, we need a larger arrangement so that the larger force would exist. So, that is how the arrangements are made. Provided the current is 1 ampere and the distance of separation is 1 meter. All these are altered here. Accordingly, the formula is also altered for doing the calculation. So, this typically shows the arrangement only. So, what forms the very basis for Ampere's balance? Force existing between two parallel conductors, but which are in the circular form. For convenience, we have taken the coaxial coils. You are interested to look at the mathematical expressions by which we could find the current, let us have a look at this mathematical expressions. As I have already stated, at equilibrium the gravitational force due to the counterweights is equal to the magnetic force. We can substitute for them. So, this is the counter mass that we have added. So, mg is the force, and what about the magnetic force between the two? That also we have already established this relation. So, substitute it here, and this equation could be rewritten for I square and then finally for I like this. The expression for current is written in this easy way. So, how do we measure the current? There is a particular distance of separation, this is not altered. R is the radius of the coil, which cannot be altered because the geometry is the same. N1, N2, these are the number of turns, it depends on the design aspect. So, current is measured in terms of the mass or this weight. So, we could measure the current in terms of the force, especially the gravitational force acting on the mass that we add, right. So, we do not require any other quantity for calibrating Ampere's balance. So, whenever we have an instrument which does not require another quantity for calibrating it, such an instrument is called an absolute instrument, because it measures a quantity. In this case of Ampere's balance, it measures current without any other quantity except the mass. Mass is the fundamental quantity, right. So, except that the other quantities are not used for calibrating it. So, such instruments are called absolute instrument. We will see why it is called absolute instrument further. Ampere's balance is an absolute instrument because it measures current without the help of any calibration using other physical quantities. So, this Ampere's balance is called an absolute instrument. Is it only used for current? Yeah, in this case of absolute instrument concept, it is used for measuring the current. This equation could be further modified for measuring the other unknown quantities. What is the quantity? Have a look at this expression. This mu naught is here, right. What is mu naught? It is the permeability of space. So, if we rewrite this equation for finding the permeability of the free space, that also could be done, but for that we should know what is the current. So, by allowing the known current to pass through the two coils, we can measure what is the permeability of free space. So, this equation is modified for that here. If a known current is flowing through the coils, we can rewrite the equation for the permeability. Permeability measurements are also possible. So, it is also measured in terms of the mass, of course the current, and the other values remain the same. Is it only for measuring the permeability of free space? Can it be used for measuring the permeability of any medium? So, in that case what we have to do? We have to fill the space between the two coils with a medium for which we want to find the permeability. How it is done? Let us go back to the very basic diagram. See here, this is the space between the two coils. If it is free, then what we will be able to measure? We will be able to measure, because this space is empty, it is a free space, the mu naught permeability of free space we can measure. Suppose I fill this space with a suitable medium, say a liquid or something. If I fill this with a suitable magnetic medium, in that case it is no more mu naught, now it is mu, the absolute permeability. So, this instrument becomes handy in finding the permeability of any medium. Only thing is we have to fill the space with that medium. So, what we have to do? We have to keep the two coils in a chamber and fill the chamber either with a liquid for which we want to find out, or the gas for which we want to find out the permeability, which is called the absolute permeability, and we will be able to measure it. But we have to be very careful. When we fill it with liquid, then there is buoyant force coming into the picture. So, we will have to take the buoyant force also into the consideration, but though the system becomes complicated, we will be able to measure the force with proper counterbalancing the additional force that is acting. So, all these are possible with suitable modifications done to Ampere's balance. So, in the case of free space, we can only find out the mu naught, which is shown here. If you want to find out the typical permeability of the medium, what we have to do, this is how it has to be modified. By suitably filling the space between the rings, the permeability, actual permeability, it is called absolute permeability, and also the relative permeability, by suitably modifying, this is represented here as mu r of the medium, could also be determined in terms of the force. So, how do we modify? Here it is now the permeability of the medium. So, we have put a medium. So, I have also used m dash instead of m, because some other mass is kept and the equations are written accordingly. Now, there is a differential method by which also we can do the measurement. First, conduct the experiment in free space. You find out what is mu naught, then fill it with the medium, find out the permeability, but you are altering the mass, right. So, how much of mass is altered? By maintaining the distance, everything same. So, that mass can be substituted for finding this. Just by finding the ratio of the mass itself, we can find out some important calculations. So, that is why we go normally for the relative permeability. How the two are related? Actually, the three terms, the absolute permeability, permeability of free space, this is called relative permeability. All the three are related by this equation. So, mu r is mu divided by mu naught. If you look at this equation and the earlier equation which I have written, the mu is proportional to the mass. So, accordingly, when we substitute for mu, what we will write? We will write m dash, and for mu naught, what we will write? M, which I have already shown. The remaining terms, no, g, d, I square, n1, n2 r, all will get cancelled, and accordingly we can modify, the remaining terms get cancelled. No, I want to keep the mass same, I want to alter the current, that is also possible. So, any one quantity has to be altered. So, in terms of current also we can measure the relative permeability. So, the Ampere's balance could be suitably used for measuring various things, not only the basic quantity like current, it could also be used for measuring the permeability of free space, permeability of medium, and directly it could be used for measuring the relative permeability also. So, it is a versatile instrument, and that instrument is an absolute instrument because it uses no other physical quantity for its calibration, it uses only the fundamental quantity mass, thus the weight acting on the mass. Shall we see the summary of today's lecture? In this session, we have seen the concepts of definition of 1 ampere, an instrument called Ampere's balance, how to use Ampere's balance for measuring the current and also for measuring the permeability. Before we wind up this lecture, let us test our understanding by answering these questions. Define 1 ampere as per SI units. Why is an Ampere's balance called as an absolute instrument? Explain how to measure the current and permeability using Ampere's balance. How do we measure the permeability of a medium using Ampere's balance? With this, I would like to conclude this lecture. In this lecture, we have also given a small introduction, that is relative permeability. This paves way for another set of lectures, in that we will learn about the magnetic properties of materials, namely the permeability and the other related quantities. Based on that, how can we categorize the magnetic materials? I would like to reserve all of them for the upcoming lectures. Thank you for watching this lecture.